This is the first of two video tutorials on the use of paged sound windows in Raven Pro 1.5. Paged windows enable you to work with sound recordings of any length without any limitations imposed by the amount of memory available in your computer. In this video, we'll introduce the basic features of the paged sound window interface for single sound files. In the next video, we'll demonstrate the use of paged windows with sequences of sound files that may span any period of time from minutes to years. When you open a sound file, Raven displays the Configure New Sound window dialog, which offers a choice between opening the entire sound and paging the sound. The default choice is Open Entire Sound. If the sound you're opening is quite long, and you choose to open the entire sound, you may encounter this dialog telling you that there's insufficient memory available to open the entire sound. Paging the sound provides a solution to the problem of insufficient memory to open the entire sound. In a paged sound window, Raven only loads into memory sound data for the amount of time that you specify in the page size field, which would typically be much shorter than the length of the entire recording. Page navigation controls in the paged sound window allow you to quickly move the visible page to any portion of the entire long recording. To illustrate, I'm going to open a 60-minute sound file recorded by an autonomous audio recorder deployed on a spring morning in a terrestrial habitat in the Northeast United States. For now, I'll accept the default page size of 60 seconds. Because I specified a page size of 60 seconds in the Configure New Sound dialog, waveform and spectrogram views initially show me just the first minute of the hour-long sound. I'm going to hide the waveform and wrap the spectrogram over 3 lines so each line now displays 20 seconds. I'm also going to select the copper color palette for the spectrogram view. Let's listen to the first few seconds of this recording. To navigate to other parts of the sound file, I use the Page Navigation panel that's displayed above all the views in the sound window. The Page Navigation panel contains a paging scroll bar, whose length corresponds to the entire recording, including those parts of the signal that are not presently in memory. Remember, in this case, the entire sound is 1 hour long. Raven loads into memory and displays just 1 minute at a time because I specified a page size of 60 seconds. You can move the 1-minute page to any point within the entire 60-minute sound by dragging this scroll box. As you drag the scroll box, the page start time is continually updated to show the time position of the scroll box relative to the start of the sound file. When you release the scroll box, Raven updates the spectrogram view to show the sound data beginning at the new start time. If you want to jump directly to a specific time in the sound, for example 14 minutes and 30 seconds into the sound, just type the time into the page start box using a colon to separate minutes and seconds. When you press enter, the page jumps to the start time you specified. If your sound is longer than an hour, enter 3 numbers separated by colons to indicate hours, minutes, and seconds from the start of the sound. To advance to the next page, click the Page Forward arrow to the right of the paging scroll bar. By default, the next page shown begins 90% of the way through the current page, so that successive pages overlap by 10% of their total length. To load the previous page in the sound, click the Page Back arrow. Also move forward and back in the sound by a smaller amount than a full page using the Step Forward and Step Back buttons at the right and left ends of the scroll bar. By default, the Step Forward and Step Back buttons advance the page start by 10% of the page length. If you want to return directly to pages that you viewed recently, you can use the Previous and Next Recent Page buttons to navigate among recently viewed pages. If you want to change the page length or the amount of time by which the paged window moves forward and back with the paging arrow controls, right-click in the blank portion of the page navigation pane and click on the Configure Paging button. So, for example, I can change the page size to 2 minutes with no overlap by entering either 120 seconds or 2 minutes for the page size and specifying page increment of 100%, then clicking OK. Creating selections and adding them to a selection table works the same way in a paged window as in a non-paged window. To illustrate, I'll first open up the selection table, then I'll make and commit a selection here on this Red-winged Blackbird song in the first 1-minute page of this 1-hour file. Let's listen to the song. Now let's jump to a time near the end of the file and create and commit another selection on this sound. Let's listen to it. It's a single honk by a Canada goose. The selection table shows all selections that I make in a sound, irrespective of whether or not they are in the current page. If I click in a selection table on a selection that's not in the current page, Raven jumps to the page centered around that selection. Anything that you can do in an unpaged window can also be done in a paged window, except for editing operations that would alter the sound data. So if you click on the Edit menu for a paged sound window, you'll see that the commands for cut, paste, delete, and other editing operations are disabled. In a paged window, you can use the horizontal zoom and scroll controls at the bottom of the window to get a closer view of sounds within the current page, just as you would in a non-paged window. However, if you zoom in time within a page, it's important to remember that you're now viewing only a portion of the full page. If you forget about this, and you're reviewing a long sound by moving ahead one page at a time, you risk inadvertently overlooking some of your data. To illustrate this, let's first restore this page to a size of 1 minute. We'll keep the page increment set to 100%. Beginning at the start of the sound and moving ahead one page at a time, we first see 0 seconds to 1 minute, then 1 minute to 2 minutes, and so on. Now let's go back to the start of the sound and zoom the time axis by clicking 4 times on the Zoom in X button next to the horizontal scroll bar at the bottom of the window. Now we're viewing the first 15 seconds of the current page. We can use the scroll bar to see later parts of the current 1-minute page. If we go back to the beginning of the page, where we see just 0 to 15 seconds, and then page forward, the next page shown begins at 1 minute, because our page size is still set to 60 seconds. At this zoomed-in time scale, the time between 15 seconds and 1 minute is not shown at all if we just go from one page to the next. So if we leave the horizontal time scale zoomed in to show just 15 seconds of a 60-second page, and then view successive pages, we'll only see 1/4 of each page of data. We would miss seeing 3/4 of the sound file. If you're paging through a sound with the intention of viewing all of a recording, we recommend leaving the time scale set to the full page length. To make sure the time scale is set to the full page length, click on the Zoom to All X button to the right of the horizontal scroll bar below the views. If you find that the time scale is too compressed to clearly see features of interest in the spectrogram or waveform, make the page length shorter rather than zooming in. That will ensure that you don't accidentally skip over data when paging through a long recording. In our next video, we'll see how you can use paged sound windows to explore recordings of any length, even up to months or years.